Well, welcome back to another Disney Lorcana community interview here on the Inkwell Lounge. I'm your host, Chris, aka Questing for Lore, and in this week's episode, I got a chance to sit down with DLC Richmond winner James, who you may know better as Fungus. We talked about his background with TCGs, look forward to Winterspell, and, of course, talked lots and lots about the competitive side of the game. Sound interesting? Let's get to it. Well, hey, James, how's it going?
Hey, not too bad. How about you?
Oh, not too bad. Thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate you sitting down and talking with me a little bit tonight. So one of the first things that I like to do for the people that I talk to is kind of get their origin story with Lorcana. I know you've played some other games in the past, and I know you've kind of gotten into Lorcana. I guess not relatively recently, because I know you were at the Atlanta DLC. I was there too. But I'm interested to hear your story, how you kind of got into the game and how it's been so far.
Yeah, so I will say that I started with set one. I did come from Magic the Gathering and Pokemon earlier in my life. I'll play most every TCGs that came along. If Marvel versus System, Hearthstone, I played a lot of different stuff.
Wow,
but
lots of
Magic kind of was the game that I was with probably the longest. I played Pokemon competitively in 1999, if anybody's that old. But yeah, otherwise, Magic since like 98. So
okay.
I got into Lorcana because I found something my wife was interested in. She was interested in Disney, or he heard about the game coming out and tried it all as soon as it came out. The only thing that kind of hindered us was card availability.
Mm-hmm.
I was not at the Atlanta DLC, funny enough. I did not play any of the Season 1 DLCs. We did not get tickets for them, so that was kind of a barrier.
Okay.
But Season 2 was the first not Richmond, but Milwaukee was the first DLC I ever attended. But the other one's not for trying, just couldn't get tickets. So.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, that's still a problem now, right? Selling out in, 30 seconds? I mean, it's ridiculous. But, I mean, it's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yep. Well, cool. Yeah. Does your wife still play, or is it kind of like just kind of casual whenever, sometimes y'all play off and on, or?
She plays casually. She's not a competitive gamer by any means. Doesn't like the pressure, but she will play local stuff quite a bit. She played at Richmond. She just played side events. She didn't play in the main event. So it's just not her vibe, I guess.
Okay. Hey, nothing wrong with that. I mean, I did side events in Richmond too, and Milwaukee, and it was, I tried, like in Atlanta, I tried the competitive event, and just the pressure of it. It's the same kind of thing, right? It's the pressure of it that I don't like it. I still like playing the game. I still like, I enjoy the competitive aspect of it, but that pressure of the main event is just, not my jam. So
no, makes sense.
I totally get it, but. So I'm curious. So, I mean, obviously we know the outcome of Richmond. How was Milwaukee for you?
Milwaukee, I did okay. Milwaukee was some variants broke not in my favor. I played blue green there as well. I thought it was still a good deck choice for that tournament. I got a little bit ill right before the event, so like on the airplane ride there, kind of allergies attacked me, and my body started fighting me. The pressure differential or something hit me. So there was some a little bit of that in there, but the main event there, I lost every single die roll, and if you remember the fabled metagame, it was definitely play draw meant quite a bit. So I went I believe X3 on day one, just missing day two. That one, and then did pretty well in the side event, the Infinity event the next day. So it was overall a good experience, even though I lost something like, I want to say 17 die rolls that weekend over the course of the 2 days. So it was like, all right, that was the universe didn't want me to knock that one down, but that's okay. So that's
still
a good experience.
Yeah, and it's such a huge problem in Lorcana too. You don't get that first shot, and it's downhill from there sometimes. So, but so I'm curious. Do you prefer like the competitive aspect or Infinity, or core constructed or Infinity, or do you like both for different reasons? Or
Yeah, I'll play whatever. I play alternate formats as often as I can. I'll shout out this while we're here. Like in my Metafy Discord right now, we are organizing a Porcana tournament, which is
Nice.
commons and uncommons only. Well, I'm doing some pricing for that. So that's a format that is kind of near and dear to my heart when I get a chance to play it. We play it locally from time to time.
Mhm.
Really fun to explore different formats. But I'll play whatever. Core is fine. I love Infinity. I love legacy formats and stuff like Magic, where I can play older cards and all the stuff that I'm familiar with from early games. So I'm looking forward to playing some Infinity competitively for the first time here
Yeah.
coming up. I know some people are not in that same boat, but Hiram is my best friend, so I'm big fan.
No,
But
no,
Core's okay
Hiram.
too.
Yeah. No, it's going to be interesting to see what the DLC looks like this time. I have no doubt it'll be just as popular. The tickets will probably sell out just as quickly, but I wonder if it'll have like a different kind of feel overall to it, or if it'll just be, it's just competitive. It just happens to be with different cards. I don't know.
I think we'll see a lot of innovation there, actually,
Yeah.
just because there is such a wider card pool. I think there's a difference between people just casually building decks for something and playing them in kind of even at premier level side events, and people giving it their all and throwing in a format that has that wide of a card pool, and the power level disparity is kind of all over the place. So I think you're going to find that people think they know what the format is, and then when we get there for the first time at a high level, it will be a very different thing than what people have envisioned. Obviously, the blue decks are going to be awesome. I think Popsicle Hiram is definitely going to be good, but I think there are a lot of strategies there that are not fully explored that we'll see more light when it comes to the premier level play.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look back over the vast amount of cards that we have to pull from, and there's some things that, like, you look at lists on Dreamborn and you see some like really interesting combinations that people are coming up with, and like I look at it and I'm definitely not a very good deck builder, and so it's really interesting to me to look at this stuff and see, oh, okay, I see why they combined it, something from Floodborn with something from Fabled, and it's really interesting. And I don't have the mental space to keep all those cards in my head, but I fully respect the people that do and that can sit down and come up with these decks. Is there anything that you're thinking about that you're kind of brewing for the DLC?
I think it's a little bit too early. A format like Infinity or legacy formats in other games, I have learned that a couple of very key role-playing cards can really change the way decks play out. But blue red is near and dear to my heart. Blue red, kind of items, or if I get a chance to play some Love Sent Dragons, I'm going to.
Nice.
Blue green items is also another deck that I'm really excited about seeing what happens with that deck. Some Oswald shenanigans. So those are kind of where my starting points are going to be come Infinity, but we'll see when it comes to that time. We got a couple more sets before the next I think North American DLC comes around.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what all kind of fun things that we get in the future sets. I'm looking forward to seeing how Winterspell kind of pans out. Because we're not even a full week into it, really. I mean, we've got the pre-release and everything, but it's going to be interesting to see what kind of stuff people come up with. There's lots of good, interesting tools that all the different decks, all the different ink colors got this time. And I don't know, have you gotten to play much with it? Did you do any kind of like limited, draft or sealed or anything?
Yeah, I did 2 pre-releases. I did one on the Friday. It was on a Valentine's Day weekend, so I didn't do the one on Saturday. Yeah. But I did the one on Friday. I did the one on Sunday, and I won both of those.
Nice.
I thought the limited format actually is getting a lot better. So with Whispers in the Well, was the limited format seemed to be a lot more actually like your decisions matter and your deck building process matters a little bit more than just play the best, okay, these are the 40 best cards in my pool or the 40 least bad cards in my pool in some cases. And, but especially in draft, I definitely encourage everybody, locally, if you can get people together to do a 8-man draft, that is probably one of my favorite ways to play the game is because, and with with set 10, now set 11, it is definitely, you can tell that they are taking care to make limited a real thing, where you can draft cohesive strategies, and not just piles of good cards. So
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it so far.
Nice. Were there any cards that kind of stood out as like super impressive, super useful, anything like that?
In a limited space, I'm trying to think some cards that I saw quite a bit. So commons and uncommons are the ones I gravitate towards there. Man, I'm trying. I am not. Nothing is. I will say something that actually impressed me was Launchpad. 2-cost Launchpad. I want to say he's an uncommon, but that is a card that says something like draw a card, then discard a card if you, unless you have a Darkwing Duck in play. So if you have a Darkwing Duck in play, you just draw a card. But the turn 1 Darkwing Duck and the turn 2 Launchpad, if you can defend that and just draw a card, extra card every turn in the very early game, sometimes you can, create a situation that's just kind of insurmountable. And there's a lot of decent early Darkwing Ducks. Like there's a 2-cost War Darkwing Duck, I believe, at common or uncommon, and then you got the 1-cost common Darkwing Ducks. And there's some good synergies there. So I'm sure that's built in. Like there's the not Fire the Cannons, but there's a 2 damage spell, I believe, that costs 2, and it says if you have a Darkwing Duck in play, does 3.
Yeah.
So
I forget what that is.
I think for draft that would play out a little bit more than sealed, but if you happen to see that Launchpad and you happen to have like a decent amount of playable Darkwing Ducks, like just drawing an extra card every turn will win you a lot of games in limited formats. So watch out for that one. It's not a bad card on rate. So that one, I think, came up for me quite a bit, both playing against it and playing with it.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I don't know if I actually saw one of those come through, but it might have just been, because we did a draft event, so it might not have come my way. Who knows? But
another one, the Uncommon Bell, I want to say, or I think it's
which
a bell.
one is that?
It's an amethyst. It's an amethyst. No, Alice. Sorry, Alice. The Alice boost card. Yep. That card seemed really, really crazy to just run away with the card advantage. So I'm definitely a guy where I see draw a card on something and I'm driven towards it. But especially in limited environments, if you can have the ability to, out card advantage your opponent, and when you're doing trades back and forth, it's a huge deal. So the Alice, where you boost, and every time she quests, you put all the cards in your hand. That card was really, really powerful for me.
Yep. So what do you think about the boost mechanic? Do you find, I know we've got a couple of cards that are kind of meh that have it, but it seems like there's a decent number that are pretty useful with it.
Yeah, it's an interesting resource to call upon. It's like putting top card of your deck under it, and it in a limited environment, it isn't a 0 cost in that it's you do have only a certain amount of cards in your deck, and you potentially could hit your one-of bombs and stuff like that. Obviously, it's random, so you're just as likely to not see it at all. But it's interesting, especially when you're talking about cards like that Alice, where we're scaling a resource based off of it. You continue to go like that. It also, for a limited environment, one of the main things you should be looking at when you're building your draft and your seal deck is your curve, right? So your boost cards are, something like that Alice. Well, it's a 4-cost card, but the boost on it is 2. So I can, I think I can easily play it at 4. I can play it at 5. I can play it at 6, and I'm not unhappy to play it in either of those slots because I'm still getting full advantage of it. So you can kind of build your curve with that in mind. So it helps. It rewards people who are conscious about boost being kind of flexible in your curve. So I'm into that.
Okay, cool. So the big question, the new 35 card limit, or well, not limit, but yeah, I guess it is a limit. It's the lower end of the limit. So what do you think about that?
I think it's a wonderful choice. I have not done a draft
Totally
yet
agree.
with it. But if you've ever drafted Lorcana before, you see 48 cards. So you only get to cut 8 cards from your draft, which means you're kind of forced into some of the later picks being in your deck regardless. So you get this thing where you're like, okay, well, what's the least bad inkable card, right? Like you just get down to the bottom of the pack, and you're like, none of these cards are gonna advance my gameplay, but I'm gonna have to put this Henwin's Legacy or whatever it is, look at the top 4 cards. Okay, I'm just going to put this on my deck because it's inkable, and at least it's not going to prevent me from being able to play the game. So doing the 35 cards means that we are now 13 cards we can cut. So it's a significant difference. It's a huge deal. which means you're also going to see the cards that you do actively draft early more often in your game. So, and you can mulligan, your decisions mean a lot more. I don't have all the math in front of me, but like five less cards is a huge deal in that. So I'm a big fan.
Yeah,
I do wish that they had just made it consistent. Just make sealed and draft the same. It is a little bit awkward that sealed is 40 and the draft is 35. I think it would make limited just better in general.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of get it, right? You know, the sealed stuff, you've got like this whole set card pool to work from. But yeah, no, as far as like actual gameplay, yes, totally. The 35 was drastically different, at least for me. You know, to be able to actually find those cards and, you know, like you could mulligan. I mean, you can see 14 cards right off the bat if you needed to. And it's kind of crazy to think about that.
Yeah. Seeing nearly half your deck if you want to, right?
Yep.
In one fell swoop. It definitely makes your card decisions a lot more meaningful.
Yep. Well, cool. Well, so I kind of want to get back over to the competitive side of things. So you mentioned, you know, some of the thoughts around some of the decks that you were thinking about. Can you kind of walk me through your process of how you do, like, how do you build your decks? Like, do you just look at the available cards and just kind of toss something together? Do you update previous decks? What's your preference?
Yeah, so I have a couple of things that I look for when I'm picking a deck, and some of these will be universal, some of this just me. So I'll say the universal thing is that you want to play a deck that you personally can play well. For me, that is going to be control decks, or I will play combo decks, and sometimes a mid-range deck like a Blurple or something along those lines. I'm okay to play, but if I'm playing like very aggressive strategies, I tend to not. I don't enjoy them as much, so I tend to not play them as well.
Okay.
I will not. So there have been tournaments where probably Amber Steel aggro or just a low to the ground aggro deck might have been the right call in a vacuum, right? If I were, I would say I could probably play an aggro deck reasonably well, probably above average even. But I am going to do better playing a deck that gives me the most time to make decisions. So I gravitate towards longer game strategies like control decks. And then once we're there, I have to say, okay, what's reasonable for this tournament? What's the expected metagame? You know, is there a reasonable control deck for this tournament? For a long time, that was the answer was kind of maybe. And we get into a territory of what can I do to gain some sort of advantage versus the metagame. One of the big things for me is that I do try to take a line of attack that isn't necessarily 100% well known, or isn't not necessarily. I'm not necessarily going to play just a rogue deck or a off meta strategy just for the sake of it. But if I think I can gain a competitive advantage from it, I will do that, because if people don't know my play lines 100% of the time, they are going to play worse into me. So that is a factor. I tend to play some techie cards. A couple of events that I've done well with, I played a blue steel deck with no wheel, without a whole new world in it, and did well with it. I top 8 an event with that early on. I also played, blue-green very early on, with the muses and stuff like that, when it was kind of not a known quantity as much. So there's been a lot of different decks where I've kind of iterated on, known archetypes, or played stuff that's, near meta, but just enough off that people have kind of had to play different play lines. Or may have been misplaying because of the way I constructed my deck. That blue steel deck, for example, when I played that at CCS 25K a while back, that I top 8'd with that one. That blue steel deck was in a meta where Bucky was really prevalent, and people that were on blue steel at the time were on the Whole New Worlds. So almost every single person was on Whole New World. I was instead just on Obstacles, Force Spheres, and Workshops. So people all day were playing as though I had Whole New World in my hand, or I could play it. So they would dump their hand very early on, play into one of my board wipes, and then when I never played the Whole New World the entire game and was drawing cards through alternate means, like I gained competitive advantage by doing that, because people didn't know exactly what my deck list was. So. When you have the opportunity to do that, if if you're an expert at the game and you've put the reps in and you understand kind of what the ebb and flow of things are, those are ways you can get small little advantages. But you know, I'll say that with that word of caution of just, you know, make sure you have a very good understanding of what the metagame is, you know the fundamentals, and I wouldn't stray off the beaten path until you feel really confident that you know what the beaten path is.
Yep, definitely. So I'm curious, what does your testing process look like? You know, you mentioned putting in the reps and everything. How long do you spend with the deck before you actually decide on, you know, yes, this is the one that I want to play at this next, you know, upcoming competitive event?
I usually have identified a couple of key strategies pretty early on. So I can tell you right now for DLC Ghent is going to be my next big event. I'm not going to make Melbourne or the CCQ this weekend. I know some folks are doing that. But I have an idea of, like, I have a few decks that I have in mind for myself right now. Blurple is in there, but Blurple is a deck that I'm kind of trying to stay away from, at least for right now, just because of how popular it is. So while I think it probably in a vacuum is the most powerful deck right now, I think Blurple mirrors aren't something that I'm going to enjoy, which means I'm going to have a worse event and probably play worse as a result of it. I probably could figure out, you know, what the best way to approach the mirror is, and maybe a Blurple mirror is fine if you play the right tech cards and you have all the right strategies. But it's on my list. I think it's a very powerful deck, and it's a deck that I wouldn't cast aside. The other one is blue-green. I think blue-green is still a reasonable choice into this weekend. Okay. It's probably not at the top of my list, though. I think blue-green, you know, does its best in a meta game where you kind of exploit people's deck building flaws or deck building weaknesses. In Richmond, it was, you know, everybody was kind of in this mid-rangey space where we're all kind of going a certain pace. So being able to play an early tempo card like Mubino's best, or being able to shift the Clarabelle very early on, and then kind of punish people for going wide and punish people for you know, going tall, so to speak, you know, was the way to play that format. So for this tournament, my top three right now are Amber Sapphire is the other one. Amber Sapphire I put a fair amount of time into, and I know a couple other folks are probably going to mention it, and we'll see how well it does in this Melbourne weekend. You know, I think that'll be a good indicator of it doesn't have legs. I think right now it does have legs, but it has some deck building challenges where it heavily relies upon Cinderella. So the games where you do see Cinderella, you feel like you're on top of the world, and the games where you don't see Cinderella, you feel like the deck is just like the wheels are falling off sometimes. So that I think is the deck building challenge right now. So those are the decks I'm kind of leaning towards. Not to say that, you know, we have a couple of weeks before Ghent, and obviously Melbourne this weekend might have a breakout deck that I'm not accounted for. But you know, all of those kind of controlling or, you know, kind of slower strategies are what I'm kind of gravitating towards right now.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. You know, I haven't kept track of the meta so far very much. You know, I'm still catching up on half of the cards that were even revealed for Winterspell. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, you know, what comes out on top and kind of how things start shaping up a little bit more as we get more into the set and some of these other big competitive events come around. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's always interesting to me to see, you know, I think I mentioned it kind of earlier, but it's interesting to me to see how people get creative with this stuff. You know, like you're saying, you know, you kind of have the usual deck, the usual kind of structure to it, but then you throw in a couple of tech cards and a couple of, you know, random things to kind of keep people, you know, a little off guard. So it'll be interesting to see if anything pops up like that, you know.
Yeah, I think we're going to have people trying a lot of new cards, and not everything's going to stick. But for this Melbourne weekend and for the CCQs, I think there's one in Europe this weekend too. I bet we're going to see a lot more Winterspell cards than we will the week prior, week after that, because people are kind of excited to play them, and, you know, for everybody's first instinct is to put the new things into your deck. So that's kind of where we expect us to be.
Yep. Hey, it's fun, right? You know, you got to try out the new stuff, see how it goes. If it doesn't stick, then, you know, you just swap it out, right? So if you were offering advice to someone that, may be kind of new to the competitive space or just, wants to like pick a good deck to play, something effective. Do you have any advice for somebody on how to figure out what would be a good deck?
Yeah, I think first things first. I think if you're in a local community, you're always going to have some people that are putting more time into it, or may have that TCG background that you can rely on and kind of get mentorship from. You know, uh, Obviously you can reach out to people like me, and there's lots of people in the community that are,
Mm-hmm.
pro players that are, do like Metafy coaching and stuff like that, and those can be really helpful at a certain phase of your game. But at the very, very beginning, I tell people, when they first start in the game, I say, let's go to inkdecks.com. Let's take a look at the decks that are doing well. Let's, identify how these strategies kind of play out. And then, let's find a strategy that you're going to be comfortable with, and let's get some practice on that. So, kind of harkening back to what I talked about earlier is, you know, don't build from scratch. Let's lean on what has been successful so far, and let's get a good understanding of how the game plays out, and especially how the different strategies play out. I think if you can do that, you will, get a better understanding of the game, and then from there you can kind of iterate. So if you were just completely fresh trying to get competitive, let's go to inkdecks.com, see the types of strategies that are doing well, grab a deck list or grab several deck lists and try them out. If we're talking about like purchasing your first cards and starting to get all these staples in the metagame, it's also going to be better off for you to invest in things that are tried and true, right? Like a lot of people will get into the game buying lots and lots of packs and just building stuff out of what they have, and that could be fun, but you're not going to get the best return if you're trying to be competitive. Let's like I said, get a strategy, maybe do some proxying and do some testing either online or in person with just printed stuff or written up proxies or something. But test some stuff out that works. Get a good understanding of the game that way. That's how I would tell everybody to start out.
Okay. All right. And how about like playing other decks? I know there's a lot of players out there that, they're not just like keeping track of the meta and what's popular and kind of trying to tech against it and everything. But there's a lot of them that'll actually play other decks so they can kind of get a feel for it. Do you recommend that as something early on, or do you think it would be better once they finally, figure out what deck they want to play and then try to figure out how it plays into other ones?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value that can be gained from trying out different strategies if you have the resources to do that, and have the bandwidth and the time and stuff like that. Especially I'm a educator professionally, so I'll kind of throw this back to learning styles. I think different people learn in different ways. So, and in that respect, if you're the kind of person that can learn from playing against the deck and seeing what their lines tend to look like, there's value in that. But some people learn better from only being in the driver's seat. So you kind of have to self-identify there a little bit. I often will not play a ton of reps on every single strategy, but it is good to jump in, and I'm a person who will tap a resource, like ask someone who is dominantly playing that type of strategy, hey, what are your play lines tend to be, what are your counter plays tend to be, what are the mulligan strategies, and give me the 5-minute version, right? And I can usually absorb that and take that into my gameplay pretty quickly, but some people need to see and do it from themselves. So especially if we're proxying stuff up or we're doing online play, jump in a couple of different decks and let's see and see what it looks like from that side of things. And something might be a good fit for you that you'd expect.
Yep, totally. So if you had one piece of advice to give someone who is moving from more of a casual, the casual player and wants to get into the competitive side, what's that one piece of advice?
That's tough. Narrow
it down.
I think it comes down to your approach. So when it comes down to a casual perspective versus a competitive perspective, is trying to as much self-diagnose as much as possible, but also be ready to accept advice and learn from your mistakes. The big thing is not to get hyper results focused. maybe I would draw that direction. So you can learn from every result, I think, in some way, shape, or form. So grab a buddy or somebody you trust, and have them watch the game, and then ask, hey, what could I have done differently, and discuss it. Right, that discussion point is going to bring you to a place where you are starting to think about the game differently, and what your different decision points kind of arced into. Try not to get into the mode of, okay, there's nothing I could have done there, because it's almost always a different decision point that you could have made, like very minor stuff down to major stuff. Mm-hmm. But even sometimes you're going to take all the correct play lines and you're still going to lose, and sometimes you're going to win and not taking all the correct play lines, but you have to take both of those things to heart. So just being self-reflective and being ready to not be defeatist, and not be too results oriented, but just I guess reflecting in general is a big skill to have when it comes to like getting the most out of your testing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's it's interesting as someone who has kind of tried to get a little bit more into the competitive side. I totally hear that. It is too easy to get into your own head and just be like, oh, I lost, I didn't play well, how could I do that? Versus coming at it from the perspective that you're talking about of, okay, I didn't win, how can I improve in the future? That's such a huge kind of mental shift, for a lot of people. And in a competitive game, it's hard, it's hard to like make that shift and not get too down on yourself. And, and it's different, right? You have local like set champ level, and you may do amazing in set champs, but then you go to a DLC and it just completely bombs, and it's really hard to like look at the two and it's like, well, they're both competitive events. Why didn't I do equally well in each one?
Yeah, I mean, it's you're not, tournaments have so much variance that you want to have a good track record overall. So you want to win more than you lose. I've bombed set championships before. I do pretty well in them generally, but even smaller tournaments, I'll have a bad tournament or whatever. There's variance that comes into this. There's maybe tournaments where I did most everything right, felt good about my gameplay, but it didn't break well for me. It's happened many times, but once you start to identify, what the correct play lines are, and you have good knowledge of the metagame, and you know what you're supposed to be doing, and you can do it with confidence, you will win more than you will lose. And then once that variance happens, and once the opportunity arises, you have to be able to win the ones you're supposed to win. That's the one I kind of keep telling people. It's like there are some matchups you're going to lose, and you don't have as much agency there. But where you do have decision points and where you do have agency, if you're taking advantage of the good opportunities you have, that's how you spike an event. You're not going to win them all. You're not going to win every event, but you can have a positive track record. I think most people can have a positive track record if you put the time and the effort into it, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Some people are just more than happy to just play casually and, enjoy. That's the nice thing about the game, right? You don't have to be that hyper competitive player to still enjoy playing Lorcana. You can just go play Porcana decks, or like a theme deck, go have a movie night, that kind of thing, and still have a blast playing the game. It's super great. I love that about it. It's not just for competitive players, which is really cool in my opinion.
For sure.
Yeah. And so you've started sharing some of your knowledge and everything, and some of your thoughts about the game over on your YouTube channel. I think the last like 6 or 7 months, I think. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, not too long ago. It's something where I wish I could spend more time with, but I'm kind of splitting time there. My editing skills are not the best, so it takes me a long time to deal with videos. So I'm trying to find a happy medium there. I've recently got like an overhead rig that I purchased and a laptop. So I'm trying to do some local, hopefully some streaming and some gameplay type videos more often there. But yeah, I do a little bit of YouTube. I try to make strategy content and try to make it accessible where people can kind of follow gameplay patterns and stuff like that. I think we need more of that kind of content in the game. We have a lot of, not trying to be mean when I say this, but there's a lot of slop. There's a lot of kind of hyperbolic videos like, oh wow, this is the best deck, and that,
Yeah.
it's kind of overblown, and it's leading people, especially new players or people who don't know how to parse information, sometimes down the wrong path. So I try to be kind of level-headed with my approach, talk about, this is what I would do, this is the why. And I take things from an educational perspective as much as I can from some professional educator. So I teach adults for a living. I used to teach high school age kids for prior to that. So
Oof.
I try to I break it down from the perspective of someone who is trying to educate someone else and give them perspective.
Yeah,
So,
and that's super useful to have, as somebody, like I said, that's kind of trying to move more into a competitive space, to be able to sit down and actually watch it and say, okay, why did they make that choice? Out of the cards that they have in their hand, what made them play a Tipo over, over other cards? It's seeing those choices and kind of that mental game, I guess, is always super helpful, at least, for me personally.
yeah, for sure. No, it's I like to give as much perspective as we possibly can. Whatever I am giving advice, I try to give direction and give the why, right, and give you next steps. Let's be reflective a little bit. Let's be introspective. So I think all of those are ways you can improve at the game, and sometimes people just got to activate your sensors a little bit, right?
Yep, definitely. Yep. Have you done any content creation before that, or is this kind of the first shot at it?
I have not done a ton of content creation. I have done articles for Magic in the past. So that was, I'm old enough where that was the main way that information was put out, in the 90s and early 2000s, was just articles on the internet where you had to read the whole thing and get a deck list and to learn. So video creation is new to me. So just starting to get a little more invested in that and do more with that. Especially starting to link that into my Metafy space, which I'm investing in, and my Discord. I do a little bit of streaming in my Discord as well. So people that are in my community will see some gameplay, and I'm trying to get more engaged on the video side of things. Okay. But no, I'm pretty green content creator as far as that's concerned.
Hey, we all start somewhere, honestly. So if you had to say one thing that you've really found interesting or learned since you've started, putting out videos and all that, what would be like one or two things?
I will say, what is and is not, popular is kind of a hit and miss for me, and where things that I thought might do more well in a wider space, and what the algorithm picks up. I will say the most popular types of videos are. What I have found are the ones that have the most time investment, and that's gameplay with commentary. So those types of videos have hit really well for me, especially in the early metagame. So I'm looking to do more of that type of content where we push out more gameplay with explanation and giving more analytical type conversations. I've done some interviews with some pro players and stuff before, and those didn't necessarily hit as well. And maybe just the way I'm framing things. I'm still learning how to play the YouTube algorithm game. But YouTube really is just a mechanism for people to get awareness of my channel, my brand at this point. I'm trying to, not trying to make a ton of money off of YouTube, but hopefully they see me, understand how I approach the game. And my Metafy community is mostly where my supporters are at this point, like one-on-one coaching and stuff like my guides and my streaming where I can connect with people more in a one-on-one setting or in a group coaching setting. Those have been the way that people, I think, get the most out of what I have to give for the community right now. So YouTube definitely still will do to make sure people get a general idea of what I've got going on and stuff like that, or if I have anything that I think is good for a wider audience. But definitely check me out on Metafy if you're interested in growing your competitive game or growing just in Lorcana in general. I'm happy to engage with you. We've got lots of good players in that Discord and lots of engagement daily.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, having a good community around you is it's crucial, honestly. I feel for the people that are out there, and that, I mean, yeah, you can play it and you can enjoy the game and everything if you're just kind of playing yourself, playing by yourself and everything. But the amazing contribution of having a community of players around you to, at the very least, just bounce ideas off of. You know, you don't even necessarily have to be playing the game with them or anything. It's just, you know, hey, have you ever tried this card in this particular deck? You know, how did it work? How, you know, was it super effective against this matchup? You know, there's all sorts of useful things from the, you know, the hive mind it's super helpful. I've found a couple of folks locally that are they're much better deck builders than I am, and to be able to kind of pick their brain, you know, like after a set champs or even just, you know, regular league day, is super handy. So.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot of times it's just activating that part of your brain a little bit. You know, once you understand the why behind something, you can kind of start to piece together and make better critical decisions when it comes to deck building, when it comes to gameplay and stuff like that. So sometimes it's just having that conversation and you have that aha light bulb moment, and
yep.
Hey, I just became a better player. It happens all the time when I'm having like coaching conversations. People are like, "Wow, I didn't even think about that." But once you start thinking about it, now you can't stop thinking about it, right? So there's always those good moments. So talk to people who you're playing with around you, people who are doing well, people who aren't doing well. Talk to everybody and get their perspective on the why.
Yep. Yeah, I like whenever I've finished a match. I did this with a couple of people at the Richmond DLC because I just did side events and stuff, not obviously not the competitive or the court event. But, after we would finish the round, I would ask them, hey, can you show me your deck? Can you talk me through some of those play lines? Because, I'm not going to play them again, just the way that the structure was. And so it's always interesting to get that perspective from somebody else. And a lot of times there's just like, crazy cards. Like you'll see some random card thrown in there, it could be a 1 of, could be a 2 of. And it's like, okay, why did you put that in? I don't understand. Help me, help me understand so that if I have a similar deck, then I can potentially modify it if that makes sense. So it's really cool. It's interesting to kind of learn from other people and not necessarily the people that you're just around all the time, at locals or whatever. So
yeah, for sure. No, you can have a lot. You can gain a lot by those types of conversations if you're open to it.
Yep, definitely. So did you see a big surge of followers after the DLC?
Yeah, quite a bit. I had a good amount of people that I was working with on one-on-one coaching prior to the DLC. Mm-hmm. I'd been in the blue-green community, a kind of a pretty vocal person there, and blue-red even prior to that. So I've done coaching, and I had some people that were kind of early supporters and had done well as a result of coaching that I was with and mentoring, stuff like that. But I kind of, obviously, like you spike a big event, your name gets out there, you have a big influx, and that's when I moved over to using Metafy to organize a little bit. So it went from just, hey, I'm just going to put you on my calendar to I got to have a little more organized system and manage my day job and my my play space, and kind of this is my secondary job at this point. So, but no, I'm grateful for the attention. Hopefully, everybody that has linked up with me and used my services. And I think I've only had, even if I've had critical feedback, that's been with a grain of salt, right? So, but I'm always happy to have that feedback. And I've had a lot more people that I've been able to reach that are improving greatly as a result of continued coaching and mentorship and stuff like that. So I'm happy that I have that audience now, and hopefully can be a positive change for just people looking to become more competitive in the Lorcana space, and just keep everybody on the right path and keep drama free, keep keep us lighthearted where we can, but also we do have those those tense moments. Like how do we deal with that? That's one of the things that I have from other games have dealt with so much, because I came from 1998, 1997. I played Magic all the way to current. I was a judge in Magic for a good while as well. So I haven't judged Lorcana, but I still have that judge hat on sometimes when I approach a situation. I'm like, okay, how do we I've dealt with a lot of high-level events, high-dollar situations from that perspective as well. So I try to just use all my experiential learning in Lorcana. So, and hopefully pass that on to what is a little bit of a green community sometimes, because this community, a lot of people have never played a TCG before, and this is your
Yeah.
first one, so you don't necessarily know what's kosher and what's not, and the community has to kind of figure itself out with that in mind. So, hopefully, bring to bear the experience that I have in a positive way.
Yep. Nice. Yeah. I imagine it's got to be satisfying to like see somebody that you've coached in the past and see them doing well, and and potentially doing well in like an actual competitive event, not just set champs or something like that. But yeah, I'm curious. So how many folks do you have? How many people are you coaching right now? I guess there we go.
That's a good question. It ebbs and flows. I'll say people as they are, people as we come to a big event. A lot of times people will just say, "Hey, I want to do like a couple of sessions right before my event." Right? It's a really common way that people approach things. I have maybe 3 or 4 people that I regularly do time with. Right now, I have a student that sees me about 2 hours every week. And we have kind of a regular thing, and that is a less focused type session where we are working on general skills. He's trying to grow as a player and get better at just mechanics of the game, stuff like just general decision-making processes and how to approach the metagame, and getting more advanced as we spend more time. So we do a lot of like video, like analysis of watching back videos of his gameplay and talking about it, do one-on-one with like guided hands and stuff like that. So there's that type of approach that is more generalized, but a lot of times it'll be like, hey, I have a big event coming up. I need to get over this CCQ. I'm trying to qualify for nationals, or I'm trying to, at least make some cash out of this event and have a good finish. Let me get 2 or 3 hours with you. Let's spend some time talking about the metagame, talking about specific play lines, and maybe get some practice in with open hands and talking about decision points. So right now in my Metafy community, I have something like 50 something people, on my Metafy. So maybe a little bit more than that. That are part of my Discord community and, actively getting kind of like, just engaged in the conversations. And then I have a fair amount of invited guests, like, other pro players and other strong players from the community that I thought have good input that are in my Discord. So there's a fair amount of healthy conversation that goes on there. And I'd say about half of them are people who are regularly doing coaching maybe once a month. So
okay, all right. Yeah, I didn't even think about the fact that there would be people, you think you hear about the coaching and you're like, oh, it's going to be like this standing thing. But the people, like you mentioned, that it's like, I've got a competitive event coming up in a month or two. Can I get a couple of sessions, before that, just to kind of get that little extra boost? That's kind of cool. I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah, it tends to be very popular. People. I mean, because people do their own testing, and it doesn't make sense for everybody's budget to have coaching to that extent. Yeah. Every so often. But for the people that do, I think they can get a lot out of it. But even just being part of that Discord community and getting access to more focused conversations sometimes can be just a huge deal. Mm-hmm. Not trying to be like super advertising here, but like it's only $5 a month to join my Discord, so it's a pretty low entry point where people can just okay, let me just get in and have conversations. I have like tournaments and stuff. I'll do streaming there, so it gives you a lot of access to just having good people to tap into versus something like 20 Lore. 20 Lore has some really good people in there, but if you're a brand new player, you're kind of just getting the water hose, right? You're drinking from the water hose, and you don't necessarily know who to trust and who not to trust and what information is going to be good. So I try to parse that down and make sure people are focused and staying on the path they need to be, and then a lot of good daily conversations about all kinds of different decks at this point. So cool. And there's a lot of other communities that are similar to that. So if you do find, a good mentor or something like that, most of us are trying to help people navigate that space, from the lowest level of just like, hey, having good conversations to more focused conversations and coaching, Metafy guides and stuff like that. All of it is, if everybody's in the right place, if you have a good person that is trustworthy, there's a lot of good information out there to help you narrow down and get better at the game.
Yep. So speaking of kind of looking forward and everything, so Winterspell, I'm really curious. Have you gotten any kind of perspective or thought any about how the meta might shift? I know, we're still pretty early on in the set, but I can't imagine, or I can imagine that there are certain trends and certain things that are really sticking out. Have you seen anything like that?
Yeah, I can. Very, very, very early. If you follow me on Twitter, you know I'm lighting that up sometimes when I got nothing better to do. But the very early in the meta game, it looked like Grandmother Willow decks and these hyper aggro decks that are coming along with it were really going to be dominant. Like they are very, very powerful. And in an early meta game where people haven't refined on how to actually attack these decks, they can exploit that pretty early. So I expect for people that are playing Melbourne and people who are playing the CCQ in Europe this weekend, and Ink in the next weeks, you're going to see a fair amount of Grandmother Willow decks just because when they get the good draws, they are good. Especially when there is a version that plays like the Stitch Rockstar where you could just play a bunch of free pudges and draw a million cards and replenish your hand every turn. So when that deck is running hot, it's very hard to beat. But what's probably more real is you have these Amber decks that are more like just dogs plus Grandmother Willow. They gained a new tool, but they're not that much different than they used to look. I think Amber Steel is another realistic color combo that last set wasn't as well positioned, maybe. So those are starting to pop up, both aggro versions and mid-range versions. And then while those were very, very strong in kind of the preseason metagame for online play when people were trying out these cards, I think the Amethyst decks are starting to creep their way back to the top. I think the Purple deck is probably still the best deck. It has some good tools to deal with Amber that it didn't before. From just, if you think about it from a fundamental perspective, and if you played Atlas matchup a lot, the Blurple, one of the main tools that they lost to out of the Dogs deck was that Chromacon, right? But now the Blurple decks have stuff like Tigger to interact with characters without having to challenge. They have stuff like Let It Go where they can interact with the characters without having to challenge. So you have a lot more tools that allow you to kind of deal with their characters without having to interact with the Chromacon. You can still play with Sabi and stuff out of those decks. I think Purple Steel is also still really strong. Again, some people are going to be playing the new Tigger. They also have the Angel if they really want to go that route, to start beating up on some of those aggro decks. So I think early on you'll probably have these different Amber piles, whether they be Amber Steel or Amber Emerald dogs, and then you'll have kind of these Amethyst decks that are there. The new deck that we're going to see a little bit is going to be Amber Sapphire, which is like a more true control deck along the lines of, if we think way back to when Ruby Amethyst was a Be Prepared deck and we were trying to play more of a control deck there. It is more along those lines where we're playing a true board wipe, but it's a very costly one, so you have to kind of set up your board for that. So time will tell if that deck is going to be a major contender, but it's something I'm working on right now, and I think a lot of other people are still fleshing that one out. If you look at the results online, it's not doing that well, but it's a complicated deck. Control decks are hard to just pick up and play well for the first time. So but Amethyst decks and the Amber piles, I think, are not going anywhere.
Okay. All right. Is there any card in Winterspell that you think is being slept on currently, like that people should be paying more attention to?
Maybe not Winterspell, but like a card that is it as a result of Winterspell, right? So I'll say that Winterspell has opened up. So for me, the card that I've been really happy to play with is Mufasa, the big blue Mufasa, the 8-cost Mufasa, which is a card that wasn't as playable in prior formats, but in a deck like Amber Sapphire, it might have finally found its home. It's really powerful, and if it's not dealt with immediately, it just takes over a game. So the Amber cards that we got from Winterspell kind of enabled that deck to be a thing, and I think that Mufasa finally has a home in that style of play. Same thing with the Cauldron. The Cauldron is not a Winterspell card, but it's a card that for the first time is really going to be able to see some play in that style of deck. So not I think everybody's on the Cauldron, but I think not everybody's on the Mufasa. So as a result of Winterspell, Mufasa might have his time to shine finally.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I've seen a couple of people talking about that. I haven't seen any like solid lists yet, but I haven't been like super looking. So, there might be some great ones out there already, but
For sure.
uh, well, cool. Well, hey, James, thank you so much for spending some time talking with me. I've really enjoyed, getting to know you and getting to know some of your thoughts on the game and everything, especially on the competitive side. I really appreciate it. Like I said, as somebody that's trying to get a little bit better on that side, it's always interesting to kind of pick the brains of people that are, that are the upper level of the competitive sphere. So, but yeah, so I want to end with the same 4 questions that I ask everybody. I did give you those ahead of time, so hopefully you got to think a little bit on them. Okay, so favorite ink color that you like to play, and any card that you like. Could be, for art or playability or anything like that.
Man, my favorite ink color is sapphire for sure,
Okay.
and Hiram Flowerstone.
How did I know that was coming? I mean, if you're a
That's our
Sapphire
man.
fan, then that's usually pretty easy. So,
I
all
like
right.
drawing cards more than I like winning the game by a fair margin. There are many times where I'll continue drawing cards and forget to win
Yeah.
on a board state that I was supposed to have won on board. So no, I love drawing cards because more card draw means more decision points, and that's how I like to play the game.
Nice. Nice. All right. Second question. Favorite Disney movie and why?
That's a hard one. My favorite Disney movie is I'm gonna give an answer. I'm gonna give kind of a cop out answer. Let's say Lion King, and it's
Okay.
because the Lion King Game Gear in the early '90s was one of the
Nice.
hardest games I ever played.
Hmm.
I had my big chunky Game Gear, and that was a game that had like a lot of formative memories with it. I think the Lion King might have been the first movie I saw in theaters too ever.
Okay.
So I can't recall, but it definitely was early on. So, but yeah, that the level where you had to like jump on the giraffes' heads. That was like I
Yes.
came to find out as an adult. That's one of the hardest. Like it's considered one of the hardest things in video games ever. But as a
Okay.
child, I just remember sitting there playing that game and being frustrated like an entire night, like of a weekend, like from a Friday night all the way to the morning time. My parents weren't super attentive, but I played like all night trying to beat that level, and I eventually did. So it was a bit. It's one of my favorite games currently is like Elden Ring, if you're familiar with that one,
Mm-hmm.
which is another game where it's just like punishing. So
Yeah.
the Lion King was basically early Elden Ring for me. So let's say Lion King.
Okay. Yeah, the Game Gear that you had to replace the AA batteries every 3 hours or
Oh, D
so.
batteries, no double A's. D
Oh,
batteries.
are you're talking about the battery pack one or
Uh, I want to like Sega Game Gear. I want to say it was D batteries.
oh, was it? Oh, I could have sworn it was
Yeah,
double A's. Oh,
I'm
it's
gonna,
been
I'm
a
gonna look at
while.
it right now. But
Yeah, I know right now I'm like, oh, um
it
yeah, cuz oh, go ahead.
no, no, you're right. It is 6 AA batteries.
I thought so. Yeah, and I remember they had the little battery pack and everything so that it would
Yeah,
last
yeah.
longer, for like another
You
hour maybe. But
you just plug that thing in, man. The batteries are
yeah,
not a real thing.
yeah. Yeah, I remember that game. I think I had that one too, and it was very hard. Yeah. So
It was fun for me. That's the kind of punishment I like. I enjoy.
nice. All right, cool. Well, so give a shout out to your favorite LGS or LGSs.
Yeah, in Columbus, Georgia, we have a few good ones. I am about an hour and a half south of Atlanta, so if you're we're the second largest city in Georgia, have a really good community there. The Cool Place is probably one of the main stores I play at in Columbus, Georgia, and then we also have a store called Hollow Haven in Phoenix City, which is just over the border at Alabama. Columbus, it's right on the border of Georgia and Alabama. And then there is also a Mega Card Games, also awesome people at all three of those stores. Whether you play Magic or Pokemon or whatever, they have all have really great community members and owners, and I really like what they're doing. So
Cool. Cool. So, out of those, if you had to say one of them that is more on the casual side and one of them that is more on the competitive kind of side, because I know it differs from LGS to LGS.
yeah, in terms of like Lorcana, I will say the biggest turnout we have, and I would say that probably encapsulates the casual players and the non-casual players more. Is probably the Cool Place.
Okay.
They're a Saturday night event, but Columbus is not it's not in Atlanta or have like a huge metropolitan area, so you'll see the same players at a lot of different stores. So it's just nice that we get a variety of different events or multiple events, multiple set championships for our city. So it's but a lot of the same players, and so we have like a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday that you can play all 3 days if you really wanted to locally. So it's a really great thing.
Nice, cool. All right, and last thing, tell people where they can find you, your content, your Metafy, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, so one of the new ones is I've just joined Team World Class Cards recently, so if you haven't seen that, definitely check us out. We have a community where you can get access to, I would say, probably most of the best players in the game are on World Class Cards. There are a lot of strong players out there, but we have two-time DLC winner Frank Karsten on the team. We have DKP on the team, myself, and a variety of other folks that are just awesome and going out there grinding. So you get access to those folks from the World Class Cards community on Metafy. So shout out to those guys first, and for my team now taking me on with sponsorship. I'm going to be making a lot more events as a result of them. I have my own personal community. I mentioned it a couple of times where my Metafy is, I believe it's just Fungus TCG, or maybe just Fungus. I don't even know. I think it is.
Well, the links will be in the show notes, so people will be able to find it.
Fair enough. But I have my own Discord community where I do a lot of one-on-one engagement there. So my Fungus Metafy is a good place to find me and get like one-on-one coaching or group coaching. Watch me playing games actively on stream. I do a lot of engagement there. And if you have a burning question, that's the best place to find me. I also am doing, like I said, a community tournament with some good prizing, where I'm giving away like foil playmats, some product, some cool 3D printed trophies, and all kinds of different singles and stuff from Winterspell for a Porcana tournament. So if you're interested in like alternate formats, jump into our Discord community. We're doing signups here in the next week, and would love to have everybody in there just having fun and trying out a different format you've never played before. So
nice.
So you'll find me on Twitter, and I'm also on YouTube. But if you want really just looking to level up your game, my Metafy is the best place to find me.
Okay, perfect. All right, and like I said, I'll make sure all the links are available and all that kind of good stuff, so people can find you and get a hold of you. So, all right, well, cool. Well, James, thank you so much again. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you around the community.
Chris, appreciate you, man. Have a good one.
You too. Well, it was so much fun to get to sit down and talk with James and pick his brain about the competitive side of the game. If you like the show, make sure to subscribe, rate, and like the show on your platform of choice. If you'd like to reach out to the show, you can find us on all the socials at Inkwell Lounge, or you can find a full list of links at inkwelllounge.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.